Okay, welcome back to Gooner Pavilion, and it's Eddie here. And guys, I'm still on cloud nine after the Gyökeres signing. Are you? But today I want to talk about another young sensation that is stealing the spotlight across the preseason. And guys, if you've not been paying attention, Arsenal just played a preseason with Newcastle, came out 3-2 winners in that game. And boy, oh boy, this young prodigy from Hale End at just 15 years old is showing a maturity and confidence that is beyond his age. And we're talking about Max Dowman. Someone even said that the man in his surname really means that the guy is the man. Absolutely incredible, guys. Before I go into any of that, because I want to break down, his performance, what I saw in that game, what I really liked. Hit that like and subscribe button, guys, and don't forget if you're loving what I'm talking about, loving this channel, please subscribe. But also, more importantly, guys, your comments. Let me know what you guys are saying, about Arsenal preseason so far. Join in the conversation and also share this with as many people as you can in the Gunner family. Guys, let's talk about this. Let's talk about the preseason. Let's set the scene. This match against Newcastle was anything but friendly. Newcastle came in with an aggressive edge, almost like they had a point to prove. They were physical. They were throwing in some heavy challenges, and it's clear there's no love lost between these teams. And maybe that's why when you kind of look at it and when everyone was talking about Isaac, I don't know about these two clubs, dealing with each other. Maybe higher up, things are a little bit friendly, but on the pitch is anything but that. And you know that the managers don't really like each other. I think they probably just tolerate each other. There was just too much, tension. But despite the rough play that went on in that game, a few players really stood out for me. I thought Trossard had a solid game as well. He was always finding pockets. Sometimes he was drifting into that middle, taking shots as much as possible. So one thing I do like about Trossard is that he does take shots, and that's something that a lot of Arsenal players don't do enough. And hopefully, Gyökeres coming in, that might become infectious. And you never know. You take shots, you score, right? They say that you 100% never score from the shots that you never take. So I think I like that about Trossard. And I was talking to a friend of mine, yesterday, Taiwo, and I was saying, hey, listen, if all the players that are potentially leaving Arsenal, I'll keep Trossard. I'll keep Trossard because I think that, for the length and depth of the season that we have to go through, I think you need as many quality players as possible. And there's one thing that Mikel Arteta has shown over his time at Arsenal is that when he doesn't trust his bench, he doesn't use it. And that in itself is a blessing and a curse. It means that the manager is absolutely clear on the players that he wants to play, the tactics that he wants to play. But on the downside, that also means that the Arsenal team grow weary. Every end of the season, we're always basically just limping over the line. Arsenal doesn't feel fresh. And I really want us to be different this season. I think this is the season that we can do it, with all the signings that we've come in, but you gotta have a bench that you can trust. Gotta have a bench that you can trust. Not just, a bench that you go 75 minutes, the famous Arsene Wenger always 75 minutes before he makes a change. No, you want to make changes as the match evolves, as the opposition, is reflecting itself on the pitch. So, but anyway, getting back to that game against Newcastle, Trossard, like I said, had a solid game. Merino again, I think he's making a real case to be on that first team sheet against Manchester United on the first day of the season. And I think for me, the casualty, with all the new players that are coming in, if everything is as people are expecting, so maybe Eze comes in as well. I think Havertz will probably be the casualty for me. Again, in this game, he's not a real center forward, and I think a lot of people have said that. I think that Havertz offered a lot of things that not other many players in Arsenal do offer. But I think the one thing that Havertz is a natural goal scorer. There are a couple of instances in the game, and this is not a Havertz bashing, because I think that he's a decent player for Arsenal, but he's beginning to feel to me like a 60 million squad player. But anyway, Havertz, like I said, was okay. Merino, I think, was player that I wanted to put emphasis on. He played very well. But guys, listen, you know how I feel about the goalkeeping position, and you've seen my videos. Raya is still giving me a lot of jitters, right? So, but I'm not gonna go into that too much, as well. But guys, let's talk about Max Dowman. This kid was something else. He's just 15 years old, and he played with the confidence of a seasoned pro, right? Um, and I've been trying to find the official stats, for his game today, but I do remember he had at least two shots on targets that created saves from the goalkeeper. I think there was one from Nick Pope, and then one from John Roddy as well. And listen, Joe Linton would just be feeling sore, after this game. I don't know if you've ever, played football, like especially with younger players. And a couple of us back here, we play, maybe five aside, seven aside, and a few times there's some young guys that come and play with us, and sometimes they make you feel really old, right? When a guy does a move, right, and you're just like, come on, a little bit of respect, right? Add some respect. I had one of those experiences one time when, I think it was actually Taiwo's son, right? Who just absolutely, took me to the cleaners in the game. And I think that, Joe Linton must have felt that because he had a torrid time, against Max Dowman in this game. And I really, really love that because Joe Linton, on the pitch can feel like a bit of a bully. He does, put in rough challenges, and it's the kind of player that if you don't stand up to him, he would just have his way against you. And I like the fact that Max Dowman stood up to Joe Linton in this game. He definitely caught the eye, fearless. He was taking on defenders, and he had two runs in this game that, for me, I thought, that is just ridiculous for a player that age. The first one, he took the ball from the middle of the pitch and then just drove at players, right? Took a shot. Nick Pope dived, towards the left. It was a decent save. And then the other one was the one that led to the penalty, as well. Again, on the right hand side, took the ball and just went. His only one thought as he got that ball was to drive into the penalty box and try and make something happen. And what I really love about it was that he didn't get there and just panic, even when Joe Linton was breathing heavily on his back. He still made sure that he shielded the ball, and Joe Linton had no option. Put his hand on him. Very clever play. He went in the ground, and that was a penalty. Absolutely. And when you're doing things like that, right, and you're making players who've got the experience as Joe Linton, basically chasing shadows, for me, I start to feel very, very confident. But I mean, guys, is this a little bit of an overreaction, right? About Max Dowman? Are we, actually making too big a deal about him? They always say something in the UK that we always like to, hype up a lot of these players. And is he one that deserves that? Because I think that, for me, he didn't just participate in this game. He influenced the game when he came on. And for me, this is Hale End magic. You got to big ups, to the Hale End Academy, right? First Saka, then it was Emmy Smith Rowe, then Patino, and now Max Dowman. And it's like we've got a cheat code for elite young youth talent, which is really, really good. Right. And for me, right, I don't, like I said, I don't want us to overhype him, a lot. But if this is what he's doing at 15, then guys, listen, I need to see more of him, right? I would love to see him in that North London game that we are playing next week against Tottenham, because if you think that the hype is crazy, imagine if he scores a goal against Spurs in that game. I think that would be absolutely amazing. But I think there are opportunities for Max Dowman this season, especially in the Carabao Cup, and even coming in as late cameos, in games. I think that, it would absolutely be great, to see more of him. So, guys, listen, you got Gyökeres coming in, bringing the firepower, Max Dowman bringing a bit of flair, and Newcastle bringing vibes from a street fight. But, guys, let me know what you guys think, right? Hit me up in the comments, section. About it, as they say, are we getting too gassed about Doman, or are we witnessing the next Hell and Prodigy rise before our eyes? Either way, guys, smash that like button, follow us, and stay tuned for Gooner Pavilion as well. And don't forget to share this content with as many Arsenal fans as possible. Until the next one, guys, like, subscribe. Let's enjoy the ride.